It's 18 to 6 Jazz Radio 94.1 FM, and as I'm sure you're aware, we have the Brisbane Jazz Festival coming up. It's going to be a great event. On the line is Mark Isaacs, one of our wonderful musicians, pianist. Mark will be performing on the first opening night, I believe. Mark, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, John.
Now, Mark, tell us about the Brisbane Jazz Festival, about the opening night and your performance, your part in the festival.
Yes, actually, the festival features a lot of vocalists, and this year, and on the opening night, I'm performing with a wonderful New York vocalist, Sashil Vasandani. Hard to get that out. He's an Indian-American, wonderful player, singer, I should say, and he's actually received a Downbeat Critics Poll, etc., and he's coming out especially to collaborate here in Australia, in Brisbane and in Perth only, actually. And in Brisbane, I'll be with him with my trio. He'll actually be singing one of my songs, or instrumental that I play with my band, which I've actually recently put some lyrics to, which he'll be singing in his own repertoire. So that's going to be a great start to the festival. I'm really looking forward. I don't get enough chance to play for singers, actually. I love playing for singers, and he's a particularly good one. He's young. He's sort of in his 20s.
Well, they're calling him the modern-day Frank Sinatra.
They are indeed. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be a great start to the Jazz Festival. And then, of course, we've got Kurt Elling coming up.
With the continue the vocal theme, of course, really probably the pinnacle of jazz vocals at the moment. Kurt Elling will be on, I think it's Saturday night, isn't it? Yes. We've also got Sarah Serpa, who's very interesting in what she does. She's Portuguese, and she one of the things she does is quite often she sings without lyrics and just treats her voice as an instrument in the band, which is in many ways unusual. It's a terrific voice, and she's got a great band, and she's collaborating with some Australians too, so it's a mixed band in that respect.
Yeah, it sounds like this event is one of those things not to be missed. Now, you've had a fantastic career. You've come from a musical background and a musical family with Ike Isaacs, and also your father as well was a wonderful jazz musician. And
who now lives on the Gold Coast with my mum, actually.
Right. And there's a story on your website about Ike and a little bit of name dropping some of the people with Duke Ellington coming to lunch.
Yes, indeed. There's quite a few stories. This is all before my time, when Ike eventually settled in Australia in the 80s and into the 90s before he passed away. But when he was in London in the 50s and 60s, he really was sort of really had the cream of the musicians, the jazz musicians in London. And when Duke came to London, I remember Ike telling me that there was a get-together at his place, and Duke came over. They had a meal. I probably cooked a curry, which is what he used to do. And there was sort of encounters with Wes Montgomery and Barney Kessel. I remember an encounter that I managed to share in when I was about 12, when Ike was visiting Australia. And Joe Pass came over to my parents' house, and Ike was there, and I got to play with Joe Pass at age 12 or something, which was, we jammed a couple of songs. Dad said, my son's playing piano, and he said, okay, we'll play,
Never pass up that sort of chance.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty exciting and nerve-wracking for a young lad. Although as a young lad, I sort of did everything I could. I was sort of, okay, great, exciting. I would have thought at the time. Probably now I'd be more intimidated.
And there's also a story on the website about your dad as well, composing a song for Petula Clark. Yes,
he wrote a lovely tune called In a Little Moment that was, I don't think it was composed for her, but he composed it, and then she took it up and released it. And it was on a single that was released, I think, in the early 60s or maybe late 50s. I saw that Petula Clark was in Australia recently, actually, or even at the moment. Maybe she didn't get up to Queensland, I don't know. She's certainly been through Sydney of late.
Well, you've been fortunate enough to perform around the world. You must have had some wonderful experiences.
I have been to Russia and the Baltic States and played in Asia a lot, and I haven't played a lot in America and Western Europe. I've played in more in Russia, Southeast Asia, a lot in Russia actually, and the Baltics, and Finland. Baltics like Latvia and Estonia, and it's great to there's a lot of interest in jazz in these places.
And how do you see jazz in Australia going at the moment?
Oh, it's burgeoning, it's thriving. There's so many artists, CDs coming out all the time. Festivals like the Brisbane Jazz Festival and other festivals in major capital cities. Most cities have actually a good scene. I think actually Brisbane has a particularly good scene up there, and there's a lot of good musicians up in Queensland and on the coast too.
Yeah, we have a lot of up-and-coming jazz musicians who are really performing some wonderful music here in Australia. Now, the Jazz Festival coming up, we've also got some free concerts, I see, some free performances.
Well, I wanted to mention that too, because and also we've got some concerts that feature some Brisbane players. Speaking of Brisbane musicians, we've got the Zach Hurren Trio. Zach is a wonderful saxophonist, prize-winning saxophonist. He's actually the partner of Katie Noonan, the wonderful Brisbane singer. Just as an aside, he's a man in his own right, of course. And the Louise Denson group. Louise is the head of jazz studies at the Brisbane Conservatorium, and she leads the group. She's a wonderful pianist and composer. She leads a Latin, sort of Afro-Caribbean kind of group. And then Nat Barch is coming from Melbourne, a terrific pianist who I like very much, very transparent, limpid kind of playing. And she's actually coming by herself and collaborating with a Brisbane Rhythm section, I believe, with Helen Russell, I think, possibly with Paul Hudson. Don't quote me, but I think that's her lineup. And so we're getting to feature international, interstate, and local Brisbane artists in the one festival, which is good. And yeah, some of the concerts are free. Others are, of course, not, but well worth the investment. And there's package deals too. People want to see 3 shows. For example, there's very big discounts.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful event, and certainly something for our listeners not to miss, from the 21st to the 24th of October at the Brisbane Powerhouse. And Mark, thanks very much for joining us this evening, and we hope you have a great opening night with Sachal Vasandani.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on the show too, John.
You're listening to Drive Time with John Reid on Jazz Radio 94.1 FM.